but they just played the team that had 3 players and 5 staff.
Our next guest is Mike Erickson. Mike is the DFL candidate in House District 35A, which is Anoka and most of Ramsey. Is that correct, Mike?
Yep, that is correct. Yep.
And Mike's first-time candidate.
Yep.
And he's campaigning in unusual times, shall we say. But nevertheless, he's picked up a bushel basket full of impressive labor, educational, and environmental endorsements, among others. So, Mike, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, you're looking at a situation where you're running against an incumbent.
Mm-hmm.
You're in an area that, by and large, has been voting Republican.
Yes,
How are you going to be celebrating on November 3, and more importantly, how are you going to feel about being sworn into office on January 5 of next year?
Well, I'm gonna feel pretty good about being sworn into office on January 5th, and between now and November 3rd, we're working hard to reach out to all of the voters in the district.
How are you doing that?
We're doing some texting. We've had some appropriate socially distanced events. We've had 3 events that we called Portraits in the Park. We have a young professional photographer who's just getting started, and she volunteered her time, and folks had come out. We had a suggested donation of $25 and give us a chance to meet some of the voters, and they got a great portrait out of the deal. She'd take several shots and then load them up on the internet, and they were free to download, and it's worked pretty well for us.
Well, as you know, the Democrats have a 16-vote margin in the House, but this is going to be a Democratic banner year, no doubt in my mind. So tell me a little bit about your background, Mike.
Well, so I was born and raised in Mounds View, which is about 10 miles down the road from Anoka. Went to the University of North Dakota, where I got degrees in math and business administration. Worked for a year as a mathematician at McDonnell Douglas, and then decided to join the Navy. Spent 4 years on active duty. My wife and I had an agreement that if either one of us didn't like it after the first tour, that I would get out, and she didn't like being a single mom, so I got off active duty, continued for another 26 years as a reservist, so I retired.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, I retired as a Navy captain after 30 years of combined service. Mm-hmm. Did various work for in the defense industry as a systems engineer and a program manager, and then finally retired from Lockheed Martin as part of their senior leadership team for the undersea systems line of business.
Well, that's a very impressive background, as I indicated. I know, Mike, that your campaign slogan is preserving the future and honoring the past.
Yep.
Tell me how you came about. Come to that campaign slogan. It's almost a promise.
Yeah.
And how do you intend to implement it?
I came to it by holding my granddaughter on my shoulders, and I thought, my parents worked hard to give me the opportunity.
I know what you were going to say.
Well, hey, I had to pull back there a little bit. I am a Navy guy, so. My parents worked hard to give me the opportunities that I enjoyed throughout my life, and then I worked hard to give my kids the opportunities that they've been able to enjoy. And I watched what was going on with the Republican leadership, and I just didn't feel comfortable that my granddaughter was going to be able to have those same opportunities. I thought if we continued down their ideological path, that her opportunities would be limited. And so the preserving the future part is for her and her generation.
That's very thoughtful.
And then the honoring the past is, when I launched my campaign, I invoked Lincoln's words at the Gettysburg Address that, that the nation should experience a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty clear that today's Republican Party has strayed from those ideals. And I think we need to honor our past and get back to those ideals.
And I indicated, and I only was looking at the index in Senate District 35, House District 35A, that it's Republican leaning. But with the situation in Washington, it seems to me that this is going to be an overwhelmingly Democratic year, and people are going to put principles above base politics. Hopefully, that will resonate up and down the ticket to include yourself. So let's say on January 5, you're over there, you're sworn in. What would you intend to do? You'll be in the majority.
Well, I am a very strong advocate of public education in both my Navy and civilian careers.
Well, that's why you got endorsed by Education Minnesota, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, my wife was a school teacher
that
for
helps
30
also.
years, so I had a little bit of insider help there.
Exactly.
But you know, as a leader in the Navy and in my civilian career, I noticed that the people who showed up with an ability to think critically and had a little bit of initiative did better. And I think we need to stand by our public educators and the education support staff so that they can create that next generation of critical leaders. And I understand that education doesn't happen in a vacuum, that we need to make sure that all Minnesotans, students, parents have access to high quality, affordable health care. I'm a fan of John Marty's Minnesota health care plan. There's probably a little bit of dusting off that needs to be done, but it's a great start to get to a universal health care plan.
What other interests would you have in the legislature, and how do your talents fit in with those?
We have some lakeshore property up on Lake Vermilion, and so I'm very interested in the environment and in the mining projects that are proposed for up there. In my position at Lockheed Martin, I was involved in some fairly large projects, and every project has risks, and every project program review that I was a part of had a component of risk management where you would identify the risks, you would identify the likelihood of that event occurring and what the consequences of it were.
Seems like basic common sense.
It does, but in neither of the mining proposals, neither Twin Metals or Polymet, have I seen anything with regards to a risk management plan, something that would identify risk mitigation steps that they're taking throughout the program to ensure we don't have an environmental catastrophe. Nor do I see funded risk mediation plans. And those are things, for something like that, I think they're critical. You have to have them.
So that, I assume, puts you in the position that you do not support either one of those projects and would not support them as they're presently constituted over in St. Paul.
You know, there would be an infinitesimally small probability that they could come up with a risk management plan that would be acceptable. So yeah, I don't foresee that happening.
So that's certainly an issue. What other issues do you think that the Republicans have been leading Minnesota in the wrong direction?
Well, all of their solutions are based in ideology. So they measure success by repealing regulations with no consideration of what the effect is. I think we need to measure measure success differently. Just the number of regulations repealed is pretty meaningless. Right. My opponent was one of a few legislators that voted against making TCE an industrial solvent illegal. It's also a carcinogen that gets in the groundwater and can do real damage to people. So to me, that's not an oppressive regulation that needs to be repealed.
Well, and you alluded to the fact that your opponent in opposition to the banning of that substance, but I was also on his website, and he wants to, as you indicate, he thinks that the state is hamstrung by burdensome regulations.
There was one other thing, if I might.
Sure.
I mean, there's been something that's been going on up in the district for a while, this Highway 10 corridor issue, that it's a terrible bottleneck for commuters, and Ramsey and Anoka really is a commuter kind of community. And people have done a lot of hard work to get that to a position where it's just ready to start. But in this last there's $40 million, upwards of $40 million in the bonding issue that will go to that project. And Republicans took a principled vote, misguided principle in my mind. So we won't get that money.
So you got a major improvement to Highway 10, and it's stalemated because of the Republicans refusing to put that into a bonding bill. Is that what they?
Well, it's in the bill,
but they're holding the bill hostage. Is what
right.
they're doing.
If you remember, the Senate
Yes.
voted it down because of Governor Wallace's executive order. And, yep.
Well, Mike, I'm pleased that you were able to take time off from your schedule and stop by. I want to wish you the best of luck. And again, I'm expecting to hear good news on November 3, and I'm also expecting you to be raising your hand on January 5.
Well, I'm with you there. Thank you for the opportunity. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Mike.
it.
Appreciate it.
Democratic Visions is handcrafted by volunteers from Eden Prairie, Hopkins, Minnetonka, Edina, and Bloomington. Watch us on select cable systems and on our YouTube channel. This is Carol Sundstrom.